The order is already in motion by the time it is noticed. It exists first as a sequence of identical words, arranged in a fixed pattern, copied without alteration. Each reproduction is precise. Each transmission is complete. The language is formal, restrained, stripped of excess. There is no urgency in its phrasing, no doubt implied by its structure. It does not ask. It instructs. The order moves through channels designed to prevent friction. It passes from one point to another without pause. Its progress measured not in distance but in acknowledgments. Each acknowledgment confirms receipt. Each confirmation closes a loop. Nothing is added. Nothing is removed. It is not discussed. The order is read in rooms where reading orders is routine. It is received by individuals trained to recognize its format, to register its authority instantly, and to respond in a prescribed manner. The response is immediate and uniform. The same words are spoken back. The same gestures follow. The same procedures begin. There is comfort in this familiarity. The order does not announce its purpose. It does not justify itself. It carries no explanation beyond what is necessary to be executed. It assumes compliance not because it demands it, but because the system it inhabits has been built to ensure it. Copies of the order are logged, stamped, and filed. The act of recording it gives it weight. Ink dries. Paper is aligned. Signatures are placed where they always are. Each mark affirms that the order exists now as part of the structure, indistinguishable from countless others that came before it. No one alters a word. The order continues downward, step by step, through layers that have learned to trust the process more than the outcome. At each level, it is received as something already validated elsewhere. Authority is assumed to have been exercised earlier, in a place no longer visible. Responsibility feels distributed, diluted by distance and repetition. The order does not encounter resistance because resistance has no mechanism here. There is no space allotted for it. The system has been refined over time to remove hesitation, to convert complexity into sequence, judgment into procedure. What remains is clarity. As the order reaches its final recipients, it has lost any trace of origin. It is no longer attached to a decision or a moment. It exists only as instruction. Its authority is self-sustaining now, reinforced by every step it has already taken. The order is prepared for execution. Equipment is checked because the order implies it. Timelines are aligned because the order requires it. Movements are synchronized because the order has made synchronization necessary. Nothing feels unusual. Everything follows established patterns. The order does not accelerate. It does not slow. It proceeds at the speed the system has determined is correct. No one asks what happens if it is wrong. By the time the final confirmation is sent, the order no longer belongs to anyone. It has passed too many hands, crossed too many thresholds. It has become a process, and processes do not reconsider themselves. The order continues forward, complete and unchallenged, carrying with it the certainty of completion. What it will produce is no longer relevant. It cannot be stopped now. The environment that receives the order is built for continuity. It is a space defined by repetition, corridors that mirror one another, rooms arranged according to function rather than comfort, desks positioned to face the same direction. Every element exists to support transmission. Messages enter, are processed, and exit without deviation. This order is no different from the thousands that have passed through before it. Hierarchy is not spoken aloud here. It does not need to be. It is embedded in posture, in seating arrangements, in who stands and who remains seated. Authority is visible in proximity to the source of communication, not in raised voices or visible emotion. The structure is quiet, efficient, and absolute. The order descends through this structure with ease. Each level receives it already shaped, already approved. There is no invitation to examine its premise. The expectation is execution, not evaluation. The system assumes that analysis has already occurred elsewhere, higher up beyond view. The distance between those levels is intentional. It prevents congestion. It prevents interference. It also prevents reconsideration. Training reinforces this separation. From the earliest instruction, individuals are taught that clarity comes from obedience, that effectiveness lies in precision, that hesitation introduces risk. The structure rewards those who move orders forward cleanly, without alteration, without delay. Compliance is not framed as submission, it is framed as professionalism. The order is acknowledged with the same words that acknowledge every other directive. There is no distinction made for scale or consequence. The language does not change. The tone remains neutral. What matters is that the order is recognized as valid, and that recognition is immediate. As it moves downward, the order becomes more specific without becoming more questionable. Details are appended only to ensure execution aligns perfectly with instruction. These additions are not interpretations. They are clarifications that preserve intent. Every clarification tightens the structure around the order, making deviation increasingly difficult. No one claims ownership of it. Responsibility is segmented. Each individual is accountable only for their portion of the process. The person who transmits the order ensures it is accurate. The person who receives it ensures it is understood. The person who acts ensures it is carried out. The system is designed so that no single point contains the whole. This fragmentation is deliberate. Meetings occur where the order is present but not debated. Schedules are adjusted. Resources are allocated. The machinery of compliance shifts smoothly to accommodate the new directive. The efficiency is notable. Nothing breaks. Nothing stalls. Silence accompanies the order, not because there is fear, but because silence is standard. Discussion is unnecessary. The structure assumes correctness by default. Questioning would imply a flaw not just in the order, but in the system that produced it. That implication is intolerable. The order continues its descent through ranks that have learned to equate discipline with safety. To follow instruction precisely is seen as a way to remove personal error. The system promises that if everyone performs their role exactly as designed, the outcome, whatever it may be, will be justified by the process itself. This belief is deeply embedded. As the order approaches execution, its presence reshapes the environment around it. Timetables compress, movements align. The structure becomes taut, focused entirely on the directive now passing through it. The absence of dissent creates an impression of unanimity, even though no agreement has been expressed. It feels orderly, controlled, inevitable. By the time the order reaches the lowest operational levels, it is no longer perceived as a decision. It is treated as a condition, something that exists like weather or terrain, to be accounted for but not challenged. The structure holds firm. Nothing in the chain bends, nothing resists. The order flows downward, perfectly supported by the system built to carry it, and in doing so, the system ensures that when the moment arrives, there will be no pause, only execution. Execution begins before anyone marks its beginning. There is no announcement that the order has reached its final stage. No signal distinguishes this moment from countless others that preceded it. The transition from preparation to action is seamless, absorbed into routine. Timelines activate as scheduled. Units move because movement is scheduled. Equipment is deployed because deployment is scheduled. Each action answers a requirement already defined. The order is not present as an object anymore. It exists as motion. Coordination replaces deliberation. Individuals align themselves with assigned positions, not because they are told to do so at that instant, but because alignment has been rehearsed. The structure does not need to remind them. Each person knows where they are meant to be, what they are meant to do, and when they are meant to do it. The clarity is complete. Communication follows established channels. Messages are short, formal, and unambiguous. Each transmission confirms a step completed, a phase entered, a condition met. There is no commentary attached to these messages. They are functional acknowledgments, designed to keep the sequence intact. Nothing is questioned because nothing appears irregular. The order is carried out exactly as written. No adjustments are made to accommodate emerging conditions. The instruction does not account for variation, and variation is therefore disregarded. The system values fidelity to command over responsiveness to circumstance. To adapt would be to interpret, and interpretation is not authorized. Timing is precise. Movements occur within predefined windows. Delays are noted and corrected without discussion. Acceleration is avoided. The order specifies pace, and pace is maintained. The execution unfolds like a mechanism, each component activating in sequence, each dependent on the last. There is no room for pause. Individuals focus on their immediate responsibilities. They do not observe the entire operation, nor are they meant to. The structure isolates perspective by design. Each role is narrow, contained, and exact. Awareness beyond assignment is unnecessary and discouraged. What matters is that each function performs as expected. The absence of internal debate is not enforced. It is assumed. Voices remain level. Movements remain controlled. The atmosphere is not tense, only concentrated. Discipline manifests as predictability. The order does not generate urgency, it generates alignment. Everything proceeds according to the schedule already agreed upon by the system itself. As execution continues, confirmations accumulate. Checkpoints are passed. Conditions are reported as nominal. The language remains consistent, even as the operation extends beyond its initial phases. The system reads its own signals and finds them satisfactory. There is no mechanism here to reassess intent. The order demands completion, not success. It does not include criteria for reconsideration. It does not provide instructions for reversal. Once initiated, it can only advance. Each completed step reinforces the next, making withdrawal increasingly implausible. Execution becomes self-sustaining. Those involved do not experience this as risk. Risk implies choice, and choice has already been removed. What remains is obligation. The system has defined what must be done, and obligation ensures it will be done fully. The order continues to be carried out, uninterrupted, its authority reaffirmed by every action taken in its name. By the time subtle inconsistencies begin to appear, execution has already progressed too far to acknowledge them. Procedure fills the silence, and the order moves forward, unchanged, carried not by conviction or doubt, but by the machinery of obedience that ensures it will reach its conclusion exactly as intended. The first indications do not arrive as alarms. They appear as minor deviations in reports that remain formally correct. Timelines hold, but only barely. Conditions are marked as acceptable, though the language used to describe them becomes increasingly precise, as if precision might contain what is no longer aligning. The order continues to be executed without interruption. There is no directive to pause. Information moves upward in the same channels that carried the order downward. It is processed efficiently, stripped of emphasis. Irregularities are logged as data points, not warnings. The system receives them as it receives everything else, neutrally, without urgency. Nothing in the order instructs a response to these signals. As execution progresses, the environment begins to resist in ways not accounted for by procedure. Movements take longer. Coordination requires additional confirmations. Resources are consumed at rates slightly above projection. Each issue is addressed locally, within assigned authority, without altering the broader sequence. Adaptation is limited to preservation of the schedule. The structure does not interpret these developments as indicators of failure. It treats them as complications to be managed, not as reasons to reassess intent. The order remains valid. Its authority is unchanged. To challenge it would require a justification greater than the data provides. No such justification is recognized. Confusion emerges not as chaos, but as compression. More messages circulate. Clarifications are requested, then denied. The language tightens further, becoming increasingly technical, increasingly exact. The system responds to uncertainty by reinforcing formality, by narrowing acceptable interpretation even further. The order remains unchanged. Individuals begin to encounter situations that do not align perfectly with instruction. In these moments, they default to what the structure has taught them. Follow the written directive. Deviation would require permission. Permission would require escalation. Escalation would introduce delay. Delay is unacceptable. As consequences begin to manifest, they are absorbed by the system in fragments. No single point experiences the full scope. Loss is perceived locally, as an anomaly within a segment, not as a systemic outcome. Reports reflect this fragmentation. Each describes a problem that appears manageable in isolation. Together they form a pattern the system is not designed to see. The order continues to move forward, supported by momentum and precedent. Each completed action justifies the next. The deeper execution progresses, the more disruptive reversal becomes. The cost of stopping now appears greater than the cost of continuing. This calculation is never stated aloud. The structure reinforces itself. Authority remains intact. Protocols remain in force. The language of command does not adapt to reflect the emerging reality. It cannot. To do so would acknowledge that the original instruction was insufficient. The system does not permit that acknowledgement. As strain accumulates, it does so quietly. There is no single moment of realization, no clear boundary where success becomes failure. Instead, the operation stretches beyond its tolerances, still held together by procedure, still advancing because advancement is the only permitted action. The order is still being followed exactly as written. What changes is not obedience, but the environment's ability to absorb it. And as the structure presses forward, maintaining alignment at all costs, the gap between instruction and reality widens, unnoticed, unaddressed, and increasingly irreversible. The breakdown does not announce itself. It arrives as accumulation. What had been contained within margins begins to exceed them. Systems designed to compensate for minor deviation are pushed into continuous use. Redundancies activate and remain active. Reserves are drawn down without replenishment. Each safeguard performs its function exactly as intended, and in doing so, exhausts itself. The order remains in force. Coordination degrades first, not through disorder but through overload. Communication channels become saturated with confirmations, adjustments, and status reports that no longer describe progress, only persistence. The language remains formal. The structure remains intact. What erodes is capacity. Movements continue because they must. Schedules are still followed, even as adherence requires increasing effort. Timings slip, then compress. Tasks once sequential are forced to overlap. Each overlap introduces strain. Each strain is absorbed without protest. There is no directive to disengage. Loss appears not as spectacle, but as subtraction. Assets are removed from the system and not replaced. Personnel are reassigned, then reassigned again, until reassignment is no longer possible. The structure records these changes without commentary. Numbers shift. Entries are amended. The order does not respond. The scale of the failure becomes visible only in fragments. One segment reports depletion. Another reports obstruction. A third reports absence. None of these reports contradict the order. They simply describe conditions the order does not acknowledge. The system continues forward. As execution reaches its limits, procedure begins to replace outcome entirely. Completing assigned actions becomes the sole measure of success. Whether those actions still serve the original purpose is no longer evaluated. The purpose has been overtaken by the process. This transition is seamless. Control does not vanish. It tightens. Authority asserts itself through repetition, through insistence on adherence. Deviations are corrected aggressively, not because they threaten success, but because they threaten structure. The structure prioritizes its own preservation. Collapse unfolds within this rigidity. What fails is not discipline, but relevance. The order no longer corresponds to the conditions under which it is being executed, yet it continues to dictate behavior, shaping movement, consuming resources, and generating consequences at a scale that cannot be mitigated. There are no acts of defiance. There are no moments of refusal. Everything that happens occurs within the bounds of compliance. Every action is justified by instruction. Every loss is a byproduct of precision applied too late, too rigidly, too completely. The structure absorbs impact without breaking, even as what it governs disintegrates. By the time execution concludes, there is no decisive endpoint. The order does not fail in a single moment. It dissolves into aftermath. The operation reaches a state where continuation is no longer possible, not because it has been stopped, but because there is nothing left to move. The order has been fulfilled. What remains is absence, of capacity, of coherence, of purpose. The system stands intact, still issuing acknowledgments, still processing reports, still functioning as designed. The collapse has occurred entirely within it. And because the order was followed exactly, there is nothing within the structure that recognizes this outcome as anything other than completion. After the order concludes, there is no announcement. There is no formal acknowledgement that what occurred was exceptional. The system does not mark an end so much as a return to baseline. Communications slow. Reports decrease in frequency. Channels once saturated with confirmations become quiet again, not because clarity has been restored, but because there is nothing left to report within the framework the order created. The order itself is no longer referenced. Its documents remain filed. Its language remains intact, but it is not revisited. No summary is issued. No evaluation circulates through the structure. The absence of discussion is not a decision. It is a default. The system is designed to move forward, not to look back. Personnel rotate. Assignments change. Those who participated in execution are reassigned to new directives that resemble the old ones closely enough to feel familiar. Procedures resume their normal rhythm. The environment reasserts its patterns. The structure holds. Records of loss exist, but they are compartmentalized. They appear as figures in ledgers, as gaps in inventories, as annotations in schedules that will not be repeated. Each record is accurate. None of them explain anything. Taken individually, they appear manageable. Taken together, they suggest a scale the system does not articulate. No single entity is tasked with assembling them. Responsibility remains diffuse. Authority remains intact. The order passed through so many layers that it no longer belongs to any of them. Each segment fulfilled its obligation. Each acted within its mandate. The system recognizes no deviation from protocol. There is therefore nothing to correct. Silence becomes procedural. Questions are not prohibited. They are simply unnecessary. The structure has already absorbed the outcome by continuing to function. Its survival is taken as evidence of adequacy. Whatever failed did so within acceptable parameters, because the parameters themselves remain unchallenged. The language of command continues unchanged. New orders are issued using the same formats, the same channels, the same assumptions. They move downward with the same efficiency. Acknowledgements are sent. Confirmations are logged. The machinery resumes its cycle without interruption. The previous order fades into background. It is referenced only indirectly, through adjustments made quietly to capacity and expectation. Certain thresholds are recalibrated. Certain contingencies are expanded. None of these changes are framed as responses. They are framed as refinements, as routine evolution within a stable system. Nothing is named. Those who remain operate as they always have. Training emphasizes precision. Discipline emphasizes reliability. The system continues to teach that adherence ensures legitimacy. The lesson reinforced is not about failure, but about continuity. What occurred is not preserved as memory. It is preserved as absence. An absence that does not disrupt function. An absence that does not demand explanation. An absence that is simply incorporated into the structure's ongoing operation. The order that could no longer be stopped is no longer visible, but its path remains embedded in the system that carried it. The same channels remain open. The same hierarchies remain in place. The same certainty accompanies each new directive as it begins its descent. And somewhere within that certainty, the conditions for repetition are already aligned.